Picture it, Los Angeles, 2025.
Welcome to Out on the Lanai, the only Golden Girls podcast you're ever going to need to listen to. I'm HAlanScott / Sadie Pines.
I'm Kerri Doherty, and today we are bringing you part 2 of the evolution of Dorothy and Stanley Zbornak. Now, if you haven't yet listened to last week's episode where we cover all of Stan's appearances from seasons 1 through 3, pause, listen, come back, because we're learning so much looking at their relationship chronologically as it was portrayed on the show.
The response online from what I've seen, you guys know I don't see a lot, but from what I've seen has been wild. People seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think people have been wanting us to do a deep dive on Stan and Dorothy for a while. Mm-hmm. I know people really want to see a deep dive on Miles. That's going to be a real shit fest, but we will also do a deep dive on Miles and Rose's
That's going to be an episode where if you want to be angry for like an hour, that's the episode for you.
Yeah, it's going to be like go to Screamo night, right? That's the thing that kids do these days. Yeah, if you just want to like rant and rave and throw your body around in an emotional mosh pit, that is going to be
literally
the episode.
This is going to be me during the Miles episode on multiple occasions. God, fucking loser. Like it's just going to constant.
It's just going to be so much like, oh God.
I wonder, let us know in the comments of wherever you can comment things about if you like Miles. I really want to gauge people's, like, is it just us? I don't think it's just us.
I don't think it's just us. I think a lot of people dislike Miles. I think when you look at Miles v. Stan, I feel like I'm talking about, so like we're in like a Marvel universe right now, but Miles v. Stan, I think Stan had far more
likable
qualities. Yes,
exactly.
Than Miles did.
They're both liars. But they definitely both like to con and get away with things and try to cheat and go around people's backs. Mm-hmm. Miles in a different kind of way. But I almost respect Stan's cheating a little bit more because at least it's like what you'd expect from a dude. You know what I mean? Like you don't expect. Like, I would never expect Stan to get involved with some mob boss and then have to, like, lie about his identity and then go undercover. Although that happens in Golden Palace, doesn't it?
Well...
What happens with this episode in Golden Palace? I forget
Miles?
now. No, Stan.
Well, that is to be debated. So, I mean, we're jumping ahead, but...
Well, no, I'm just comparing the lies of Miles and Stan, and I'm saying Stan never did anything that was like as catastrophic as Miles in terms of like getting involved with the mob, lying about your identity, like all those things.
Well,
but then Stan in Golden Palace does, he fakes his death or something, right? I forget.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Well, what did he do? Explain that.
In the script, he fakes his death, but there is a fan theory that he is actually dead and that Sophia is talking to his ghost.
Well, okay, I love you fans, but let's as a journalist of fact, let's put fact into this a little bit and say, on paper, the show presented him as faking his death, correct?
Correct.
So, so fan theory, love you. We can go on that for days, but the fact is he faked his death. So that's just as big, I think. In the end, Stan's last act in the Golden Girls universe wasn't so great because you shouldn't fake your death. But overall, I think Stan's better than Miles.
Well, neither was Miles, because Miles' final act in the Golden Palace was to cheat on Rose and admit to Rose that he's cheating on her, and then B, bring his new fiance to have their wedding at Rose's fucking hotel.
Which is kind of a Stan move, let's be real. Like, the cheating part is very much Stan coded.
Yeah, it's almost like Stan and Miles swapped roles in the Golden Palace.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Anyway, we've got so much to jump back into after last week. I mean, should we just dive in before we take our little bricky break? What do you think? What's happening?
I think we should say you should go to the Patreon and subscribe because we're recording this. My schedule is just all over the place right now. And so I'll be in London when we record our Patreon Rusty Anchor happy hour. So it'll be a fun, very unhinged Rusty Anchor this week.
Rusty Anchor happy hour.
We won't be able to play the thing you want to play on it. I'm sorry.
Oh, Oh, okay.
I just can't. I won't be able to. I won't be able to.
That's true. Okay, we'll save it. We'll save it. We'll save it for the following week.
We will have an unhinged travel Rusty Anchor happy hour this week. So if you like that kind of content, go and do that. You can also subscribe to me on Instagram or something if you want to see my London food and shopping. And I'm putting all of that because I don't want to flood my Instagram feed because no one cares about any of that with all the food and stuff. So I'm going to do that on the subscriber part. It's only $2.99. Have fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Those are the things that I want to see.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into some Stan.
Okay. So where we left off.
We need to take a break and then we'll get into some Stan.
Okay, all right. I know. I'm so excited. Okay, for real now. When we left off in season 3, it was Stan's final appearance of that season. My brother and my father. This is when Dorothy finally realized, like, okay, maybe I have some feelings for Stanley. She hasn't yet said it aloud, but we sort of see it in her eyes as they linger on the doorway after Stanley leaves. That is where we've left.
Yeah.
So now we're into season 4, Stan's 9th appearance, season 4, episode 5, Bang the Drum, Stanley.
Totally different energy, season 4. From season 3 to season 4, the show shifts in tone in a really interesting slapsticky way, and I like the Stan that the Stan becomes in the 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons.
You could say he's a newsstand.
You're a professional writer.
That was wow. Well, it's their joke, not mine.
I know.
I don't need a pity laugh for a joke I didn't write. So, Bang the Drum Stanley is his first appearance in season 4. It's just Stanley being Stanley. You know, when Sophia gets hit in the head with a baseball at a game and he gets a lawyer, he wants to make money off the incident. It's just Stanley being Stanley.
Yeah.
Where he
I like
and Dorothy
Stan and Sophia in that episode, I will say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Stan and Sophia's relationship, it's so interesting because when he has money and he wants to give her money, she's all about like, Stanley, my love, my darling. And then anytime Dorothy wants to get back together with him, she's like, he's the worst man on this planet. Yeah. I'm going to climb into bed between the two of you because he's making a move on you while Uncle Angelo's in town. If you marry him, you're out of my life forever. Don't be an idiot when she sleeps with him. So Sophia is very protective of Dorothy, but she likes money.
Well, but also too, I hate to say it, there's a lot of Stan in Sophia in terms of how he handles himself when the possibility of get rich stuff comes about. Her way of sort of maybe hiding some things is very Stan coded. Like, Stan and Sophia are actually more alike than I think Sophia would be willing to admit. And maybe that energy is why Dorothy liked Stan.
Wow. Whoa. You're blowing my mind.
Yeah. Think about it. They're very similar.
They are very similar with their get-rich-quick schemes and potatoes. The sporny, your one chromosome away being from being a potato. Bacon, lettuce, and potato.
Yeah.
It's the potatoes that connect Stan and Sophia.
I can see that. But even outside of like get-rich-quick stuff, you know, fundamentally, Sophia is willing to break the rules a little bit in order to get what she wants. And Stan is very much like that, too. I just think Stan suffers from toxic masculinity that allows him to think it's okay to cheat, which is not okay.
Yeah, I also think he's very insecure because we've seen time and time again throughout the series, he's scared of being alone.
Yeah.
Which is why he's always leaning on Dorothy. He refers to the women as his 4 best friends. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Get some friends. Get some male friends. Find a friend.
Yeah.
So his 10th appearance, which is season 4, episode 10, Stan Takes a Wife. Big episode here.
Big.
This is the moment Dorothy finally in this series admits out loud that she actually has feelings for Stanley and wants to be with him. Of course, we know Stan announces he's, engaged to this woman named Catherine. So, Dorothy's genuinely happy for him until Sophia ends up in the hospital and Dorothy's worried she's going to die. And Stan swoops in. And for the first time in this series, he is not selfish. He's not a scheming, no good botchicaloop. Like, he visits the women in the hospital, even though Dorothy's like, I want to be alone. He comes back with food. He advocates for Dorothy to one of the doctors when they're not getting straight answers. He stays with her in the waiting room.
Every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how the doctor is suddenly like, yes, sir.
Okay. Which, frankly, I've never met a doctor who's easily persuaded like that.
Yeah,
ever.
I feel
and
like that
I know
doctor-
a lot of doctors.
That doctor did a 180 by Stan, like barely raising his voice.
But
He
I
was
mean,
like, "Oh yes, sir."
But you know what? This isn't uncommon. Like in relationships, I mean, there is comfort there. There's a security there that, like, yeah, there's bad qualities, but that's what happens when you're with someone for 30 some goddamn years. Like, you just know them. You know everything good and bad about them, and sometimes the good can really outshine the bad in especially moments of high stress.
And this episode to me, like it goes to show one how much Stanley truly loves Sophia, and how in these types of moments he's not being selfish and looking out for himself. He has the
Yeah.
ability to put other people before him.
Yeah.
And this is a guy, he doesn't need to try to win Dorothy back. He's engaged. He's about to get married. I'm sure he's not doing a lot of the planning, let's be honest, but there are a million excuses why he didn't have to stay at that hospital and do what he did, but he did.
Yeah.
And so this is the moment Dorothy realizes she's in love with him and she can't let him marry someone else, which is like such a beautiful and organic way to turn Dorothy fully, because up until this moment, all we've seen is shitty Stan, shitty Stan, shitty Stan, shitty Stan. And so for her to actually say, I want to be with him, it has to be believable in this type of scenario where he's being selfless. And, as Blanche and Rose put it later, Dory was feeling very vulnerable. She thought her mother was going to die. So she is very raw and vulnerable and emotional. That combination, I think, made for the perfect organic opportunity for her to realize these things about Stan. And then the fact that he's engaged just makes it a fun complication.
Yeah. And his fiance, when we meet her, she seems cool. It seems like a good person for Stan.
Yeah, she's a good person. Although the actor, there's a moment where she's sitting at the bar with Dorothy. It takes Dorothy way too long to figure out who she is. I'm like, she's in a wedding dress. How many weddings are happening at this hotel?
Yeah.
But when the woman says, and Dorothy says something and there's a big audience reaction, instead of waiting for the audience laughter to die down and for her to go, I beg your pardon, to Dorothy, because she's sitting right next to her, she goes, I beg your pardon,
Yeah.
like over the audience laughter. And I was like, but it just seems like you're shouting at Dorothy in a very quiet bar when you're sitting 3 inches from her.
Maybe she's hard of hearing.
Maybe. Oh, now you made me look an asshole. All right, well.
I'm just saying, it's a possibility.
Well, I do love that when Dorothy does talk to Catherine in the bar, she's very graceful about this. She's very gracious about this.
Yeah.
And she realizes that Stan is happy.
Can I say something? Right.
Yeah.
I have to break the Stan moment for a second. I remember not too long ago, I saw a comment on the podcast that said, do these two people even like each other?
What?
And yeah, it was a comment I saw, and there was like the funny ways that we rib each other, like in the weird, like, oh, now you make me feel bad about for saying, like, things like that.
That's so funny.
I feel like someone coming into this podcast for the first time, hearing how we communicate, can sometimes seem like we don't like each other, which is so funny to me.
That is really funny. That was like at the end of the last episode, because you said you get really funny when you're mean.
Yeah.
And you were being really funny. And I was like, wait, are you being mean to me right now? Do you hate me? I can't tell.
I love it. So if you're first time listener, this is just how we are.
This is just how we are. We love each other so much. We don't even fight. I can't remember the last time we had a tiff about anything.
I can't even think of it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
So she's Stan goes off and he gets married, and Dorothy accepts it and she's cool with it. And I love that Dorothy didn't try to break up the marriage, because she was about to. I love that she was like,
but also to have that power. Ooh, that's good. That's a good position for Dorothy to be in. Dorothy, wields her power with maturity in a way that I don't know that I would.
Do you think that you would have been able to have that maturity that Dorothy had? Because part of hers would theoretically be like, always wonder, well, what if I had just said something? You know what I mean?
I actually think I would have made the same decision as Dorothy in the end. I think there is something, because like I'm even going through that now with a friend where, I mean, not this situation, but like with a friend who has become very, very distant, and that person was very close in my life. And it's a weird dance where you have to just kind of be okay with things not going in the way that you hoped that they go or wish that they'd go. And you have to but it's a dance. And I think she had that dance throughout that episode with that. And she could have, Like I could, just like with a friend, I could have just like faked it and made everything nice and not had anything uncomfortable. But sometimes it has to be uncomfortable, and she decided to be a little uncomfortable with herself and not do the thing that she could have easily done. You know,
It's a real my best friend's wedding situation.
what a good movie!
Michael!
Oh my god, that is one of my favorite romantic comedies.
It's so good. I love
And
that. But that's sort of what it is for
There's
her.
nothing else like it, really. There's nothing else like it. And if you think about it in terms of the girl not getting the guy in the end, I mean, it's just incredible.
I know. I love that she doesn't get the
Yeah.
guy at the end.
Yeah.
So
Speaking
Stan
of, I
goes
saw
off.
the new Bridget Jones movie, and it is actually incredible. But I'm not going to say anything about it. I can't. No spoilers.
You
I'm just going to
can't.
say you're going to love it. And I cried like 4 times.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait
Yeah.
to see it. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
So we don't see Stan for a while again, which, you know, could be a coincidence, but I just like to think that like, well, he's married. He doesn't need to come to Dorothy with all of his problems. So we don't see him again until episode 23 of season 4, which is Rites of Spring, his 11th appearance. This is the vignette episode with the women trying to better themselves. And
Yeah.
Stan at some point comes over. He's a new Stan. This isn't the first time we've heard he's a new Stan. He's basically pitching them on like a pyramid scheme called Realizations. And I'm like, I wonder if Catherine was like, hey, you have some issues, go to therapy. And he just like went to a 3-day seminar. That's actually a pyramid scheme instead.
I mean, Rose did it.
I like to imagine that that's the backstory. Yes, Rose did do it in a different episode. So again, his 12th appearance, season 4, episode 25. We're out of here, part 1. Again, not a huge presence. He literally comes by pitching a new business venture called Stan's Pizzas.
Well, it's this part of Stan's journey that he is making his way to becoming a successful man again with the potato invention. So like, you know,
So we are seeing him trying and maybe
he's growing.
failing.
He's really trying here. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the episode where he refers to the 4 women as his best friends. So I'm like, things probably aren't going very well with Catherine right now.
Yeah.
And that's it for season 4. When we get into season 5, Stan's 13th appearance is season 5, episode 10, all that jazz. This is just another episode where we're seeing Dorothy and Stan have to work as a team to co-parent, just like when Dennis cheated on Kate. In this one, Michael comes by. He's jobless. Lorraine threw him out. No mention of what's going on with the baby, I guess. Did you find Michael's laissez-faire attitude towards adult responsibilities sexy or incredibly unflattering?
Oh, it's certainly sexy for a weekend. It is 1000% sexy for a weekend. My God. But then as soon as Monday comes around and like you got to work and then you got to talk about a bill and then you got to like figure out things, it wouldn't. I'm sorry. No matter how beautiful the person is, that's just not going to work out.
He also doesn't have his mustache, which makes him look a lot younger to me. I
I'm
prefer him with
okay.
his mustache.
I mean, I like both ways.
Yeah.
I'm making a face, so watch on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, we do see that Michael is a lot like Stan in this episode.
They're very similar.
They're very
similar.
Dorothy is like, we got to push him out of the nest. Stan doesn't want to. Dorothy has to push Stan out of the nest constantly. But finally, they're able to get on the same page and show Michael what Blanche refers to as rough love.
Yeah.
Worth noting in this episode, so Stan is still technically married to Catherine, but we're starting to see the writing on the wall for their marriage because there's a moment where Stan asks Dorothy if she wants to fool around. So, yep. I mean, she obviously rejects him, but I'm like, oh yeah, he's already cheating on her.
Yeah. He definitely cheated.
So Stan's 14th appearance, season 5, episode 12, Have Yourself a Very Little Christmas, which we just rewatched and did a rewind with fabulous guest Ellen Marsh not long ago.
Yeah.
Check it out. This is him. Stan has lost it all on a bad business venture.
We
learned
lowest.
that Catherine threw him out.
Yeah.
This is his lowest. I think even lower than She Left Me, Dorothy with Chrissy, because he's also...
This is hard because I bet you Catherine was also footing the bill for a lot of things. It looked like that woman had her stuff together.
Oh, she had her shit together. She was a woman who she chose career for a long time and was finally like, wait a minute, I'm I'm going to do something for myself and I'm going to fall in love.
Stan is really having to figure out, not even midlife, like this is like late in life crisis.
Yeah. This is third quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
So Dorothy, in the end, gives him a pep talk about how to pick himself up by the bootstraps, which he actually does, as illustrated in his next appearance in season 6, which is his 15th appearance, season 6, episode 3, If at Last You Do Succeed. This is the start of Dorothy falling for Stan again.
Yeah.
Him and Catherine aren't together anymore. But unlike the last time she had feelings for him when he was trying to be like the best newsstand he's ever been when Sophia was in the hospital, this time he's actually kind of being the same selfish Stan that's always gotten under Dorothy's skin.
Yeah.
So for Dorothy to have feelings for him again, it was a little surprising to me.
Well, it's surprising, but it also, what I love about this relationship and what we see in this relationship is for so long, we just see Stan being a fuck up. You know what I mean? We just see Stan. But in Stan being a fuck up, you have to then look at Dorothy and say, why did you put up with this? Or why has Michael turned out the way he has? What not so much putting blame on her, but evaluating her role in some of this, in maybe, letting Stan walk all over her, or like all of these different little moments of some personal responsibility. And I love in this era of their relationship, we're seeing a little bit more of the vulnerability of Dorothy's vulnerabilities, of Dorothy's, because clearly Stan is being a selfish person in this moment, and especially in season 6 at the start. And yet she's attracted to that in some capacity. It seems like it's working on her. And that shows failure, I think, or something wrong with Dorothy's outlook on herself, I think.
So I think it could be that. I think it could be that, Dorothy's just kind of falling back into those old habits. It could also be that Dorothy is falling back into the feelings. Now that Catherine is out of the picture, Dorothy's kind of grasping on to him being in the hospital with her when Sophia was there, and her kind of looking past the selfishness. She never mentions it, so this is just guessing. She's looking past the selfishness towards that, because so this is when Stan's hit it big with the Zborny, with the baked potato opener, and he wants to export it to Japan. He needs Dorothy to be his date with all these investors. He is not charming her at all. He's insulting her. He's like, look, I've literally asked every other woman in my address book. I got down to the Z's. It was either you or my mom. So he's not, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then he keeps trying to give her gifts. Again, not to like make up for the time when, you bought a car without telling me. Like not to make up for that, but literally just to bribe her into going with him to this dinner. So again, selfish.
Frankly, I will say, though, to Dorothy's credit here, that would work on me. It
works on Sophia.
It works.
It would work on you, I guess, too.
I think it works on a lot of people. Like if you come over and you're like, I don't know, what kind of gift would I be wooed by? Definitely not an Amazon gift card. But not jewelry either. I don't know what I would be wooed by. Probably a bag. Probably like a designer bag or a wallet or something. I would definitely be like, oh, yeah, I'll go with you. Yeah, because then you can bring it with you on the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, now you and I are the cheese stands alone on this one.
You immediately would be like, no, take that Prada away.
When I have issues with someone in my life and they refuse to address the issues, to heal and move forward, but instead just send gifts, I'm like, fuck off. Like, I don't want your gift. I don't want you. This is your way of trying to buy your way out of having a difficult conversation.
Think about how much all that grief and heartache you had to be put through could maybe be remedied by just a little bit of Gucci. Just a little bit of Gucci.
You know me. I have a fanny pack for a bag.
You're right.
You think I want a Gucci bag?
You're right. Okay.
I would be so worried it would be ruined.
On that note, we need to take a break, but we'll
take a break, and then I want to play a clip from this episode.
The saga of Dorothy and Stan. Dun-dun-dun.
Da-da-dun.
Sounded like the Netflix login logo.
So he finally guilts Dorothy into going with him to this dinner. First he comes over because he's like, I need help tying my tie. Like, I'm sorry. I love Stanley, but like, what a little bald man baby. He comes over and he like is basically, he guilts her into it by saying like, look, I'm just trying to make up for all the mistakes I ever made, which like
that would work on me.
Maybe there's a little bit of truth to that. But like at the end of the day, this isn't fully selfless for you.
Yeah.
And then again, he admits this isn't the first time he's admitted that he's afraid of being alone. He's like, look, all I've ever wanted is to be successful. And now that I am, I'm afraid I could lose it at any minute. I'm too scared of going through it alone. And instead of Dorothy giving him another pep talk and trying to push him out of the nest again, like she did in Have Yourself a Very Little Christmas, she's like, let me come back in an hour. I'm going to get changed. And she agrees to go with him to the dinner. And at the end of the night, she kisses him. And I did want to play this clip because I think it's Dorothy and Stan's first on-screen kiss.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Yeah, let's play it.
Zbornak and Zbornak. What a team. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Maybe.
Thanks, babe. Dorothy.
I love Dorothy's turnaround. I love that it goes from the kiss and then it goes to a shot of Dorothy closing the door, and watch on YouTube for this. And it goes to Dorothy doing this.
Yeah.
Like it's so like it's very Bridgerton.
Oh, I don't watch Bridgerton, but it feel the word
There's a
Bridgerton,
lot of Jonathan Bailey steaminess, and then other actors going, "Oh, my loins,
there were loins aflame
loins on fire."
in that moment. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was the tux, but
it would do it
something.
for me. It would do it for me. If Stan, if I, yes, Stan, all of the things, but if he had brought over a Prada bag, put on a tux, made me feel pretty, let me eat some steak and maybe some carbs without having to think about what I have to do later because it's not going to be any sexy. Then I come home and then he kisses me and he leaves and I get to sleep alone. That's a perfect night.
Yeah, that does sound kind of nice.
Right?
Yeah, that does sound kind of nice.
Not only do you go to bed full, but you have a Prada bag and no one's touching you.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, take a sip, have some water. So this is the start now of the arc of Dorothy and Stanley almost getting married. So because a few episodes later, we pick back up with them seeing each other in his 16th appearance, which is season 6, episode 7, Sporn Again. Stan has been trying now to woo Dorothy with candy, with meat. I love when Blanche is like, Dorothy, the man sent you meat.
I mean, the meat would so work on me. Do not see me at a Korean barbecue because, like, it is probably the place that I am giddiest. Like, there's a Brazilian place here. I forget what it's called. I went for my birthday this year. I forget the name of it. But, meat is my aphrodisiac.
I would be upset if somebody just were to send me meat in the mail because I always like to buy my fresh produce. I like to plan out my dinners, and now all of a sudden, I've got to figure out what to do with this steak now.
No.
Ugh.
Give me some steak. Put it in my mouth.
So this is also where we see nostalgia come in for Dorothy and really play a big part of her of igniting feelings for Stan. Because at first she keeps saying, like, I don't feel the same way. I'm going to break up with him. But then he buys the same car that he had in high school where he knocked her up, a 1948 Studebaker. And they go out for a drive and they park and they take off their clothes and they start doing the nasty. And a cop knocks on the window and she's like, oh, don't worry, officer, we're divorced. And then they go back to doing it with the cop still standing right there.
Can you believe that we saw a shot of B. Arthur with no top on?
Well, she was wearing a tube top.
Oh,
but
I'm
yes,
sure.
Dorothy was naked.
It happened in the Valentine's Day episode, I know. But
yes,
it's just that much skin we've just never really seen. Those are the two rare instances in the world of B. Arthur that we saw that much skin.
But naked mid-coitus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. So that's moist. That skin is
Men
all
love
right.
my cupcakes. I love my cupcakes. So yeah, they have an incredible night. She tells the
Have you
women
ever
that
done it in the back of a car?
not in the back.
Oh yeah, I've done it in the front.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much harder in the front, but maybe that's the fun of it.
I don't know. Not for me. It wasn't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't really. Oh, it wasn't hard.
No, it depends.
Wow,
It
Kerri.
depends on your position.
Wow, Kerri's a little circus performer over here, jumping around a car like that. What is the gear shift? That's just your pole.
I thought I
That's
was
just your
grabbing the
pole.
parking. I thought I was grabbing the parking brake.
You know, it's not fun in new cars because now, like my car, it's just buttons. Like there's nothing I pull, and it's really fun to grab something and tug at it.
Yeah.
Now I'm just pressing buttons. Like, you know, does this one turn you on? Does this
You
one turn you on?
You don't have a parking brake?
It's with my foot.
You don't have an emergency.
No, my parking brake is actually a button. I have to push a button. I just push a button and it does it.
Technology, man.
Yeah, it's taken the sexy out of cars.
It's really, yeah.
Yeah.
Buttons, yeah.
Buttons.
I want
like the
levers.
way I press that button?
I want to have to manually roll down my window so that if I ever drive into a lake someday, I can get out of the car.
Yeah.
That's the thing about cars right now with the buttons. If they don't work, you can't get out, which is why everybody should have a window smasher and a seatbelt cutter in their glove box. I know, but when it's
You
about
just went from
safety.
sexy to murder.
I know. No, not murder, about safety.
You don't know if they're not trying to kill you.
Safety is very sexy, and when you are safe and when you have the security of knowing that, God forbid, anything ever happen in your glove box, you have a little thing, it's a window smasher and a seatbelt cutter.
I mean,
that
I
is
hear
security.
you,
Security is sexy.
There is nothing sexy about safety. In fact, safety is the opposite of sexy. Safety is Rose Nyland.
Well, she had more sex than anybody else on that show.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
All right. So we also learned from Dorothy in this episode that the sex was incredible, which means Catherine, of all people, taught him a thing
something.
or two. Not Chrissy.
Yeah.
Not that, I didn't even know myself. Not that young chippy in the hotel room. It was Catherine, the mature, lovely, working-ass lady that taught him a thing or two. So the episode ends with Dorothy claiming to Sophia that she's not seeing Stan anymore, but they're still sneaking around, which is really funny. They're like making out in the bushes in the front of the house, which they built a set for the front of the house. That was so exciting.
Yeah. The power of Stan.
The power of Stan and his sporny.
Yeah.
And then a lot of stuff happens before we pick back up with their relationship. Sophia becomes a nun. Phil dies. Miles reveals he's in the witness protection program. A lot of really big moments in their lives.
Yeah.
And then we pick up with Stan's 17th appearance, season 6, episode 16. There Goes the Bride, part 1. So we get our two-parter here. They're sneaking around. Then they're out to dinner one night at the world's tiniest restaurant table. This is where he proposes to her. I noticed they're just so tall, and it's like a little teeny tiny bistro table, but they're supposed to be having dinner. It looks like they're sitting at the kids' table at Mr. Haha's Hot Dog Hacienda. Stanley proposes by putting a scalding hot ring and a baked potato.
So funny. Such a funny setup. It's just so good.
What do you think? It's definitely a memorable proposal because her hand gets stuck in the water pitcher glass.
Yeah.
What do you think makes like a memorable marriage proposal?
I mean, I actually think the simpler things make for a memorable proposal. I think sometimes when you try too hard, it just becomes stunty and fucked up, and it's just not personal. Whereas like, you know, I think of on The Office, Jim proposing to Pam at the gas station. Like,
in the
that's
rain.
so memorable. That's so memorable. I mean, it's just so, and then you can go in and you can get a Slurpee, which is delicious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the simpler things are the better proposals.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. Stan and I went to Paris, and I was there working, and he was along as my +1. And the day we got home from our trip, we were unpacking and we were home in our room, like in our
Oh.
PJs, and that's when he proposed.
That's
It was
sweet.
so nice.
It's sweet
It was
because
so unexpected.
it's unexpected because you think it would happen in like Paris, but no, you want the life. It's good. I like it.
But then everybody thought we got engaged when we were in Paris because I posted it
course.
as soon as we were back, and I was like, I don't care whoever thinks that, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was really, really sweet.
I love that. I love that. Good for Stan.
So again, going back to like how Sophia feels about all of this, when she finds out that they're engaged, she literally puts her head in the microwave. That's how upset Sophia is. And this is when she says, like, if you go through with this, you'll be out of my life forever. And then we get into There Goes the Bride Part 2, where we get the bridal shower with all the fun games and the hook, the police.
And my favorite of all of
stripper.
Dorothy's wedding dresses. My favorite of all of Dorothy's wedding dresses.
I love that dress. It is so
it's perfect
gorgeous.
on her. It flatters on her. The toilet paper one, we need to find someone to explain that to us. We have somebody.
And also the one that she wears for Stan's wedding, it's more of like a cream color, which I think is more flattering. And the one that she wears with Lucas, it is like
it's so
white.
Early 90s white, young. Even though it's not young, it's
not I wouldn't call it a young dress.
But it's not a dress that a woman of her age would wear. Not that it matters, you can wear anything at any age, but you know what I mean? It feels very costumey.
It feels costumey, yes.
Yeah.
It feels like what I would wear in our town when I was like Emily Webb. Yeah. So we get I Do Vow To, which I love. We get Ray Burke, the caterer. He's back about remember, like Tiny Steps. We love our Ray Burke. And because I wanted everybody to see Dorothy in the good wedding dress, I do have a clip I want us to play where she comes out in it because she's so stunning.
She's stunning.
Here comes the beautiful bride.
Wow, look at you. You look perfect.
Thank you. Stanley, I'm a little scared.
I'm not. I just feel this is so right.
Stanley, I think we're going to make it this time.
I'm a
She
little
jinxed
scared.
it.
She did.
So everything falls apart for the two of them when we learn that Stan wants her to get a prenup.
Yeah. Which I think is sensible of Stan, but I get her. I get it. I get every side. Yes.
Yes. I think, again, I got a prenup. I love prenups. I think they're great. I don't think it is any reflection on how you feel about your partner.
But
None
in this
of that.
situation, I also see Dorothy's reaction.
Yeah, because he squandered their finances. He made bad investments. He bought a car without telling her.
Yeah, it's not. And also, well, no. I think if anything, she needs something to protect herself from the situation, from being dragged into any problems that he's going to drag her into.
Yeah, she had to pay money to the IRS.
Yeah.
Because of him. And yes, I know he bought her ring and gave it back to her, but she should never have had to. He just should have paid it all to begin with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What's also funny about that episode, his best man in real life is a real life celebrity lawyer named Marvin Mitchelson, who I guess is like the equivalent of like a
divorce
Greg
lawyer to the stars,
Garagos, or like So who he hired after making it big, which again just goes to show that Stanley has no friends. I was confused while I was watching it because I was like, is that Uncle Angelo?
I know.
He looks just like Uncle Angelo. So the marriage is off. They're not getting married. Dorothy has finally been like, no, wait. I am seeing clearly for the first time that the man that I married was the man that I married.
Yeah.
And he cheated on me and we're not going to be happy. So she has finally sort of let it go. And by the time we get into season 7, it's now all about Stan trying to get over it and trying to come to terms with it and get some closure.
Yeah.
Closure for Stan that's all season 7, which again, brilliant.
Is brilliant, yes. And also, it just goes to show you how much he does actually care about Dorothy. This season really shows his level of desperation for Dorothy's approval. And at some point, we get to it. We'll get to it in the end. He does realize that he fucked a lot of things up. And this journey, we really do get the full picture of Stan in a way with this season. Like we get closure. We get closure with Stan.
Yeah. And I think too, again, he's afraid to be alone. So I do think that he loves Dorothy, and he's realizing he's messing up and having a hard time.
He fucks up this season too.
Yeah, he does. But I also think it's still him battling with his fear of being alone. So his steps towards closure, his first sort of boss battle is with Sophia, which we see in his 19th appearance, season 7, episode 6, Motherload.
Yeah.
So in the wake of that failed second marriage attempt, he tricks again, this is like Stanley being Stanley. He literally tricks Dorothy into doing couples therapy to try to get back together with her.
Yeah.
And while they're there, she's pissed. The psychiatrist is like, you're unable to get over Dorothy because you need Sophia to tell you that she loves you, because you're not in love with Dorothy. You're struggling to deal with your own unresolved issues with your late mother,
which I can see happening with Stan here, because I mean over Stan and Sophia's relationship over the years, it's just as fascinating as Dorothy and Stan's relationship, because in a lot of ways, I mean, we know Stan's mother was even though she wasn't mean to him when we met her, she wasn't mean to him, but she was very self-aware of how much of a putz he is. And I'm sure Stan picked up on that. So he probably just never really had a parental figure that was real with him and actually wanted him to succeed or do anything, because they were clearly judging him.
Yeah. I think he's probably someone who needed to be told more, like, I love you, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
But in a genuine way, not in a way that was performative like she had done.
Yeah. I agree.
No.
So ultimately, he is able to get Sophia, because again, for Sophia to say "I love you," I mean, she's got a lot of things on her list of reasons to hate Stan. But ultimately, he's able to get her to remember a sweet memory of, again, playing on nostalgia with these women, of after Dorothy gave birth to Michael. You know, she's like, I remember us standing at the window and they wheeled them into the maternity ward, and we saw the baby Michael and blah blah blah. And she goes, I do love you, Stan. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Boss battle complete.
Yeah, it's nice.
So his next boss battle is to get over Dorothy, which he tries to do in his 20th and 21st appearance, which is season 7, episodes 8 and 9. The Monkey Show,
one of
parts
my
1 and 2.
faves, yeah.
I love Stan and his monkey on a traffic cone. Did you see the costume at Golden Con?
Yes, I did.
Of the woman dressed in the full head to toe. It was the greatest costume at Golden Con.
I hope that woman listens to this podcast, because we love you.
It was a really great costume, and I hope everybody freaked out when they saw it.
Or if someone listening knows who that was.
Yes, let us know. Tag us. So Dorothy is back joining Stan in therapy. This is also what pissed me off a little bit. I was like, they're not a couple who's like trying to make it. It is not on Dorothy and Sophia to help Stan with his closure. There's no reason why she should be in therapy with him.
It's like you said at the beginning, once you get married, you're with this person for life. You have these things, when you have children, you have finances, all of these things. And so much of her life, the vast majority of her, half of her life was with this man. And so she cares about him. She does fundamentally care about him and wants him to do well. And so she's willing to put in the work, because that's the least she can do, you know?
Yeah.
Or
no, I know.
Not the least she can do, but the most she's willing to do, which says a lot about her.
She's also probably looking at it as a good investment of her time, because she's like, oh, if I can get Stan to get over me, maybe he'll date somebody else and maybe he won't come over as much.
That's true. Yeah.
So the psychiatrist concludes they should not see each other for 2 years. But of course, there's a hurricane to come in, and Stan sleeps with Dorothy's sister, Gloria.
Yeah. Dorothy really is surrounded by fuck-ups.
I mean, what Stan has ultimately done is worse. But the two of them were really going tit for tat on one-upping each other with like hooking up with friends, right? So it starts with Stan kind of dating Blanche, and then Dorothy kisses Stan's brother and thinks he's going to propose to her. Then Stan sleeps with Dorothy's sister. So I'm like, oh, if Dorothy had like one-upped that one more time, then she would have like gone after Stan's best friend, that celebrity lawyer, and tried to marry him, instead of Blanche's Uncle Lucas.
So incestuous. Yeah.
But at the end of this episode, they both ultimately come to the conclusion that they don't work as a couple, but they also don't want to be no contact.
Yeah.
And that their relationship works when they're just plain divorced,
Yeah.
with Stan coming to Dorothy with his problems and Dorothy slamming the door in his face. They've sort of fallen into this comfortable status of being a divorced couple, which is kind of nice.
It is kind of nice. Yeah, it really shows. I mean, who are famous divorced couples that like work? Like, well, Demi Moore and Bruce Willis were like that, where they just worked. You know, the marriage didn't work, but they worked afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice because they're totally an option to go no contact. And Dorothy's like, I think we're best when we're just divorced.
Yeah.
So his 22nd appearance, again, not a big one. It's season 7, episode 18, Ebb Tide 6, The Wrath of Stan. This is when they're slumlords. It's just kind of back to status quo. Stanley's fucking something up. He's dragging her down with him.
Yeah. I mean, I do like this episode, but it is a generic episode for sure.
Yeah. And then Stan's final appearance is in season 7, episode 26, One Flew Out of the Cuckoo's Nest, part 2.
I mean, can we, for just a second, acknowledge how amazing the last episode of The Golden Girls actually is and how iconic it is just in the landscape of television, and that this guest star, which he was a guest, the most frequent guest star with the exception of Miles, the impact that he had on this show and this relationship and these characters, and like how he really was in a lot of ways the 5th Golden Girl, and he just was in the mix. And so I'm so glad they added him into this final episode, and I'm so glad that they gave it the poignancy that I think he deserved, his character deserved. As the fans of the show, sure, he's a fuck up, but we love, there's love there for him, and so they gave him not a fuck up send off, but a really, really sort of like respectful send off.
I think I'm so glad they made him a part of the finale. I love the way they chose to make him a part of the finale. I like that, you know, if you had asked me, if I had watched the entire series up until the end and you're like, oh, Dorothy's getting married, how do you think Stan's going to fit into the episode? I would have said, oh, he's going to do like The Graduate. He's going to be banging. He's going to do the I object, and he's going to try to win her back, and he's going to embarrass her and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's not what they did.
Yeah.
That's not what they did at all.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoy the respect that they played to that character and to he and Dorothy's relationship. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I loved it. So as everyone knows, Dorothy gets engaged to Blanche's uncle, Lucas, played by Leslie Nielsen. And he has sent a limo, Dorothy presumes has sent a limo to pick her up to bring her to the church.
Yeah.
And Dorothy is shocked when she realizes who the driver is. And it's Stan, of course, and this is, the limo is actually his gift, and it's his last gift to her before she gets married and moves away and kind of won't be there anymore. And
oh, what a moment. Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to play the full conversation, but it's too long. So we just kind of pick up with, you know, them talking about how they'll always be a part of each other. It's really sweet. So let's play that moment.
But as Freud said, our beds are crowded. When I sleep with Lucas, I'm not alone. There's this phantom of you there, and he has the haunts of his prior relationships, and well, I can't pretend you're not a part of me.
So what are you saying? You slept with this guy?
Stanley, you're missing my point. We named it! What I'm saying is, thank you. Stanley, for the first time in a long while, you're really acting like a man.
I love you, Dorothy. I've always loved you.
And I love you, Stanley. Now drive.
I mean, does it get better than that? I don't think so.
It's such a good send-off. Also, his hair is kind of symbolic in this series because when we first meet Stan and Dorothy has a very serious chat with him, she keeps his toupee. She's holding on to a piece of his hair because he left it behind. And in the finale, when she says goodbye to him, she actually plucks a hair the one hair that grows on the bald spot on the front of his head.
Yeah.
And she plucks it and says, now drive. So I don't know. Just the fact that our first moment of the two of them together and our last moment of the two of them together has a moment with his hair. Again, I don't know if the writers intentionally did that. Maybe they did. Maybe it was a coincidence. But I was like, oh, that's actually really, really sweet that she once again is keeping just a little part of him with her, because that's what she said, is that he'll always be a part of her. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It's just the writing of this last episode and just this relationship is just so fantastic.
I appreciate their dynamic and their evolution so much more now that I've actually sort of lifted it, like that we've lifted it from the whole series and really put it under a microscope. You can actually see this beautiful growth and evolution.
So fun. I mean, just so fun. We should do that with other characters that recur. I mean, there's not that many, but like it would be nice to do like a full like deep dive of like Blanche's siblings, or like, you know what I mean? Like those moments.
Yeah, I mean, the Miles one will be fun because out of all the people, I mean, obviously Stanley guest starred the most and Miles probably second. But yeah, the tone, sorry listeners, the tone of that one's going to be very different.
And thank you for putting all this together, because you really ran this ship, because I've been so all over the place with everything. So you really ran the Stanley ship. So thank you, Kerri.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep, I ran the newsstand.
Hey, well, should we take a break and come back with our golden takeaways?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are back with our golden takeaways, which is a nugget of truth or inspiration that you can apply to your lives or the lives of our listeners. Kerri, what's your golden takeaway from this episode?
I think it is our responsibility now as Golden Girls fans, if you feel the same way that I do, to start using Dorothy, the sort of, I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, but like the lexicon of Dorothy and Stanley, the way that people use Sam and Diane and Ross and Rachel. And I know I talked about it a little bit last week, but it was Stanley and Dorothy were not the most obvious will they or won't they, because they didn't end up together in the end. But this was certainly the first time I had really looked at them like a Ross and Rachel, like a Sam and Diane. So like a Jess and Nick or whatever from New Girl. So let's start using Stan and Dorothy, Dan and Morothy, however you want to frame it. But let's start trying to use that as a classic will they or won't they sitcom couple, because I think after this coverage that we did in this deep dive, for me, it is now that status is solidified. That's
agree.
my golden takeaway.
I think that's a perfect golden takeaway. My golden takeaway is I love the idea. I love the power of a guest star. I love like when a guest star and a frequent guest star. I love when they're frequent and they make an impression on the show that you can't forget. I'm thinking of like a Janice on Friends. I'm thinking of like those guest stars that just like stick out in your head as sort of an ongoing presence in the show, that they're almost a cast member in a way. You know them.
Yeah, I mean, like super handsome, ripped actor who played Andy Cogan on the Goldbergs. I mean, he was a recurring guest star for like 100 episodes. That guy's so hot. Someone get me his number.
I think we can text him. No, and it's like, it's such a great thing. It's such a great thing. And I think, but it's also not an easy job. It's not an easy job to carve out your own space within a show that's already so established, like on shows like Golden Girls or on Friends, or even shows like, I mean, even if you're on it from the beginning, it's still very hard to maintain that and to be that guest presence in the mix occasionally. And so you really have to give it up to actors like Stan, that they can hold it and really, I don't know, really hold their own over those years and sort of be loved by the fan base in their own kind of special way. So
yeah.
Props.
Yeah, guest
props
stars.
To him.
Yes, props to Herb Edelman and to Stanley Zbornak and to the writers. I agree that guest stars,
they don't get the
when
love
you get
they
a great
deserve.
guest star, they will bring them back. And I mean, and just look at Estelle Getty, because she was supposed to be a recurring guest star just like Stanley.
Yeah.
But her presence, she was so amazing that they literally retooled the entire show to make her a series regular, R.I.P. Coco. So yeah, there is a lot of power in a guest star and in a good guest star.
Yeah, definitely. So much fun.
Oh, I had such a blast. I'm so glad. Whoever recommended we do this, thank you so much, because this was so much fun.
This was great. We're going to do more of these.
Yes, everyone. This has been Out on the Lanai. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back here next week for more Golden Girls greatness. Don't forget to check out the GG VIP Club over at patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast.
And you can follow, we're on Mom, obviously, Moguls of Media. So you can go follow them and everything. Join Mom Plus. And you can also follow us on social media at Golden Girls Pod on Twitter, Out on the Lanai Official on Instagram, Golden Girls Pod on Facebook, and I'm HAlanScott / Sadie Pines on everything. Oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom so bad.
That's okay. I'm Squidsy on Instagram and Squid Eats Squid on Twitter. If you want to do us another solid, you can leave us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast, because it helps more people discover our podcast and join our lovely community of kick-ass Golden Girls fans. There it is. She found it.
We've been doing this for a while. And remember,
as always,
Stay
golden.
Oh, we named it.
Out on the Lanai is not endorsed by Whit Thomas Harris Productions, Touchstone Television, Disney, or any of its subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only.
All names, pictures, audio, and video clips of the Golden Girls are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.